Hello, I'm Pamela Rickia from Living Joyfully, and I am joined today by my co-hosts Anna Brown and Erika Ellis. Hello to you both.
Hi.
Hello.
And today we are going to dive into a very interesting lens on parenting, and that is the independence agenda. And it's fascinating to see how this seemingly reasonable goal of fostering our children's independence can get in the way of not only our relationship with them, but their developing self awareness and inner voice. But just before we get started, we want to let you know there is a new course in the Living Joyfully shop, Four Pillars of Unschooling. And note that it is not called the Four Pillars of Unschooling. Rather, these are four of the foundational paradigm shifts that really helped us on our unschooling journey. And it is not to say that there are only four. Yet, if you're newer to unschooling and actively deschooling, you're likely wrestling with at least one of these paradigm shifts, if not all four in some way. And if you've been unschooling for years, it can often be so just re energizing, re-grounding when we revisit the fundamentals of unschooling. It helps us clear the fog a little bit and just notice the beautiful unschooling in action that is unfolding in our days. You'll find it in our store at the livingjoyfullyshop.com. Check it out and see if it's a good fit for you. So, Anna, would you like to get us started talking about the independence agenda?
I'm good. So I've thought about this a lot over the years. I feel like it first crossed my radar when I had baby. And I started hearing this messaging, they need to learn to self-soothe and they should sleep by themselves and they'll never be independent if you don't push them. And that messaging just really rubbed me the wrong way. Partly it went against everything I'd learned about attachment and psychology in school, and mostly because I wanted nothing more than to be connected with these amazing humans that had come into my life. And for me, I realized that I was more interested in exploring interdependence and what that could mean. I think the richness in life is our connections and relationships. They aren't meant to be, we aren't meant to be these independent silos. Learning to be in relationship felt like a much more useful skill and lens for my kids to bring into their life and for me to continue to grow in that area because I had a lot of baggage, thinking that I had to do it all by myself and that was the goal. And I just didn't really want to hand that to them because I saw the ways that it didn't serve me. And it was so interesting because we start to implement this idea and even training babies towards it, this independence in our culture just so early. And I think it might be a little bit more intense in the US. I'm kind of curious about that from our international audience. But I think in other countries, they have their own pieces as well. And I just think it's worth thinking about, where is it coming from? Who does it serve? For me, attachment theory was a much more useful lens. I found that from that place, from that securely attached place, my girls were able to explore the world and carve out lives for themselves. And so, I don't know, there's a lot here and a lot bubbling in my mind, but I'm interested to see where the conversation goes. So, what's coming up for you, Erika?
Yeah, I mean, it's such a rich and deep topic, I think. But one of the first things that popped to mind when I was thinking of the independence agenda is just that it sounds so ableist too. Like it's just not taking into account that people are different. And, independence, if there's a timeline component to it, if there's an agenda to it, which there is, like what you're talking about with babies, I remember there was a timeline. It was 4 months sleeping on their own, that kind of thing, so, and then that just is showing that what people are believing is that all babies are the same. And so it's just not true. And when you have, a family of individual people with their individual differences, having that kind of timeline agenda of independence is just not going to fit. And so I was also thinking like the idea of independence feels good when it's coming from within a person for themselves. Like it makes me feel capable. It makes me feel like I can make my own decisions. I can do things. Like that's a good feeling, but it's coming from inside. It doesn't feel good to have someone else tell me you need to be able to do that by yourself. I'm not going to help you do that, that kind of thing. That feels like okay, I'm alone. What if I can't handle it? And so, in mainstream parenting, you might hear warnings like, I'm not going to be around to do this for you in 10 years. So you better learn how to do it by yourself. But that feels kind of ominous and threatening in the moment. And I just think there's a lot of time typically for those skills to develop. And I just want my kids to know that I will help them if I can. Like, that's what I will do. And it doesn't matter what the age is, and it doesn't matter, about some kind of a timeline. So I feel like if they're forced into needing to do things for themselves earlier than we were expecting for whatever reason, that they can figure that out. But in this moment, we're all in it together, and everyone is different.
Yeah. That everyone is different piece is like fundamental. And that, for me, that agenda word is so important when we talk about the independence agenda. Because as you're saying, Erika, like independence is cool. Like we can feel capable. It's like when, it's like, oh, cool, I can do this thing myself, et cetera. It's so independence is not like a bad thing, but it's the agenda piece. It's like, I know when you should be able to do that thing independently, and or else there's something wrong with you, right? But when we can lose the conventional timetable, the agenda piece, and look at supporting our child's choices, which will include when they want to do things independently, and just be helping them along the way. What we're doing, we're validating, we're supporting, we're like normalizing their unique timetable, right? How it unfolds for them. And that can surely look so different, not only for different kids, like different children in the same family, even just because people are different. Like, and one might want to do this particular thing earlier, does this thing independently earlier than the other child. And then it's like the complete opposite for something else, just because people are different. And the things that each child is interested in is so different, right? So you see their interests, and then so how they want to engage with that when opportunities for independence arise, like all those things will bubble together and they will take this beautiful, unique path to what independence means for them. And I loved your ableist point too, Erika, because it's like, and one does not even need to be like labeled in any sense for for there to be an artificial timeline on top of the things that they should or shouldn't, be able to do. Like to get to that point where you can understand that this is their life, this is their path, the way their life will unfold. And that choice for independence along it becomes so natural when you don't use that as a lens. When you don't have that independence agenda on top of it all, you see it unfold because it's naturally what humans like to do, right?
Right. But I think it's interesting to think of this independence as a goal, because that's where it becomes this
Yeah.
agenda piece, right? Like it's this
Yeah.
goal of independence. And I really wanted to peel that back because I feel like, again, as humans, it's the interdependence that helps us reach the places we want to reach and do the things we want to do. It's like this kind of idea of especially taking kids and, okay, you need to go recreate the wheel independently. We're not going to help you. You're not going to get any feedback. And I'm just like, is that real life? Because I have a partner that I've been with since I was very young, and we do things together. Like I'm not independently, doing everything on my own. And I feel like having those relationships makes my life richer. And so is independence this silo of, because basically the definition of it is you're not receiving help, like you're able to do it on your own without help. Like, is that the goal? Because I think when we push that on kids, it can leave them, like you're saying, Erika, a little bit kind of out in the cold, feeling like this is scary. And yet maybe they have these kind of amazing goals that actually put them, off into the world. But they would get there easier and more comfortably by getting feedback and having support and help as they go. Pam.
Yeah, I'm just excited because what bubbled up for me there is how valuable, like that independence piece, that interdependence piece, that like I just always think of a child who can dress themselves, and then therefore the parent expects them to dress themselves. You can do this, you can do this, you did this last week, like whatever it is, you did this last week. Context means so much, right? And so we can just think of that in our lives. Like some days we have more energy, some days we're raring to go, some days we're not, and we need more help. And so to have that in our network, to have that in our relationships, to not have it as like for adults, how hard is it to ask for help? Right? Like, because we have just been trained that I should be able to do this by myself. And then we just dig ourselves a deeper and deeper hole because either we don't do the thing and then we feel bad that we didn't do the thing, or like we try to do the thing and it just takes like the last ounce that we have. And then we're like, oh my gosh, interdependence is so much more valuable at any age. Like if our child's like, no, I don't feel like picking an outfit and getting dressed, and they're just like, and they're not saying that nicely, they're probably crying and whining, that they, nah. So, those are clues for us. Oh, there is something different today that they're just not feeling that they're able to do this on their own. And what a gift for us to be able to help them in those moments. That's the team, that's the interdependence. And any age, just to normalize asking for help when you need it too. Like it's just so big, right?
Yeah, that's exactly where I was going to go next. I had made a note of needing help is not a bad thing, and having our kids know what it's like to feel they need help and ask for help and receive help, like that will just make such a huge difference in their lives. And so I was thinking, when you're talking about the examples of context, like something like being able to sleep on their own, like that feels like once they can achieve it, now we're good. Now they do that. And so it can be really, it may be triggering or, bring up some things for us when it's like, and now why are they not doing this? Why are they not doing the thing? And so looking at the context and valuing that the child can come to me and say, I'm having a hard time sleeping by myself now, or I'm having a hard time falling asleep. Like that's showing something else is going on. Maybe it's brain development, that now there's all these new thoughts that are worrying them at night, or, there's always a lot of things going on, deeper things going on. And so I love that, like using that as kind of a clue to what is the context, what is changing, what is growing about the kids, that like the things that they used to be able to do easily, now they're saying they need help.
Yeah. Right. And I think it just translates into our adult lives because I think all three of us have baggage in this area where it's hard to, because we were trained in school and in whatever that you need to do it on your own and you need to, no cheating, no this, no whatever. I mean, cheating even, that it's like to think that like in a normal, but now, we all work together and of course we collaborate. And of course, I don't know how to do this thing. Erika, help me do this thing. Wait a minute, Pam, I forgot how to do this thing. How do I do this thing? Like that's natural. Like that makes us all better at the work that we're doing to be able to share that. But we all grew up in this environment where you need to be the little pod at your desk and nobody can help you. And I just, I really just wanted it different. I just wanted my kids to have a different feel of that it's okay to ask for help and that we are stronger together.
Resources, right? Like human resources, like whatever kinds of resources that one finds one needs in this moment. Not even needs, wants. I don't have to justify it. Like I need this. I can want some help. Like I shouldn't have to have excuses for it, right? So yeah, I think that whole independence thing is such a trigger for people. And I think a lot of the messaging is like, well, if we don't make them do it, they won't ever become independent because independence is harder than being cared for. But like to me, all of a sudden, that's like, well, they won't learn the hard things. They won't learn algebra if we don't make them learn algebra. Like it's all the same messaging that no, when human beings have the choice, there will be moments when they want to do things if it has meaning in their life. And timetable wise, whenever it has meaning in their life. And human beings will choose to do the harder things when it's theirs to choose. And the context is everything, and the people are different is everything, right? Because what that looks like for them is what it looks like for them. Like that's their truth, right? Not putting my expectations or my view of shoulds on top of all that. That just muddies the water. It damages our relationship. It stops me from learning who they actually are versus my vision of who I wish they were. Just all those pieces just get in the way. So yeah, independence is I mean, it's to me, it's just a thing. It's just another aspect of living. And I'm just gonna help them explore their independence as they want to explore it, right?
Yeah. It's like that the scarcity of time kind of feeling where like you're jumping ahead to the future. Like this 4-year-old can't put on his shoes. This is going to be terrible in 20 years, not realizing this expanse of time that's going to happen between now and then. And so, right, like not letting those kind of future fears, interfere with what you're doing with the child in front of you who is just on their own path.
Right. Right. Because, yeah, those outside voices are, again, not, and I think just question them. Where are they coming from? Who is it serving? What does it mean? Why do we want that? Because then I think that can just give us a clue of like, okay, that doesn't have anything to do with this child in front of me for sure. And really not even the partner in front of me or the friend in front of me, but for sure not this child in front of me. And I think just, to touch tiny bit on those expectations, Pam, it's like, right, if we have these expectations of what it looks like, it's like we talk about all the time. We miss the learning about the actual person because we've kind of tunneled in on this expectation of they should be able to do X, Y, Z, or they should be living alone here, or they should be, able to do this thing here. And we just miss who that person actually is and what their internal timetable is, and that they may be going in a complete, I just don't think it's linear, And so I think we miss that when we're focusing in on this kind of linear path that so many of us grew up with. This is the progression. This is what it looks like. And I think so many of us weren't served by that linear path either. And so because in reality, humans are very swirly. Like we do things in a very swirly way.
Yeah, it's reminding me of like the little sheet that you get at a pediatrician's office. They really do have these, these are the skills, these are the ages, check them off one by one. And so it can make you feel like, uh-oh, this isn't looking too good, that my kid isn't checking them off in the correct order and at the right speed. And so, right, like it really like blocking out that kind of external stuff.
Right.
There's a piece that comes up for me too that I think is an interesting question, because in unschooling circles, we do talk a lot about autonomy, right? Our child's autonomy. And well, it's like, well, if I'm not looking for independence, then they don't have autonomy, right? But I think it's so fascinating to think about those two because they are not the same. Autonomy is not the same as independence, right? They're very different. When they want to make choices for themselves, they can make a choice that doesn't look like independence for us, yet that's fully autonomous because it is fully their choice in the moment, right? So if we want to talk a little bit about the theory behind it, and we look at that theory of self-determination, autonomy means that you have free will, right? That you can stand behind your actions and their values. And in other words, so no one is forcing you to do something that you disagree with. Right. But independence means that you don't need or accept help. I want you to be independent. I want you to be able to do this by yourself, and that you can do this without needing other people's help. That is so different, right? Autonomy does not require independence at all. You can absolutely be autonomous and still dependent on others. or wanting others at some times, right? That whole context piece, to help you and support you as you're trying to do whatever the thing is. So you can autonomously still act in accordance to your own belief and have free will and do all those things and still have the support and care of the people around you. And for me, like that is kind of the adult life that I want. Right? I want to be supported by my network, by my community, by my family, whenever I need it, without having to justify it, without having to explain it. And that's what we talk about so much when we talk about relationships and trust and connection and understanding each other. Because when that happens, we're not questioning, we're not judging. We're just like, oh, somebody's wanting some help. Boom. I'm there. I'll help out. And that they fully have autonomy when they're making that choice, when they're making that ask, when somebody notices and offers, right? We don't jump in and do it for them, but we can offer, we can help, we can support. Like it's so different.
Right. And I think we can, when we force the independence agenda, which again is pretty common actually, among mainstream families and whatever because, and it's coming from a place of love, right? So they need to know how to do their laundry. They need to, so they need to be independent and doing their laundry. I'm not going to help them, whatever. But what it ends up fostering again is this silo, like, well, you're not going to help me. I'm not going to help you. And I'm not going to do this. And so that becomes the norm because it's like, if we're teaching that independence is the value, like independence is where you have value, that's a really dangerous, slippery slope to me. And like you said, Erica, it's so ableist for sure. But it's like, wait a minute. I mean, it's so, I don't know, potentially damaging, I think, because, and again, it stops us from wanting to help the other person. And it could even be that we're coming at that from kindness. Well, but we don't want to hurt their independence, or we don't want to, this kind of thing, when in fact, like, who's that serving? Like, I'm curious. Like, I mean, I have my own thoughts about it. We don't need to get into that here, but it's like, I think just really peeling that back, because is that what you want? Or do you want to foster, we help each other, we support each other as a family, as friends? Because like you said, Pam, like, that's what I want right now at 55. That's what I want.
Right. Right. And it makes so much sense. I feel like once you start thinking about it like that, like if the message that my kids and my family get are that we all can ask for help and get it, like that's just great. Like that's a great takeaway because that will help them all the time. But if we're giving them the message of you did it by yourself, that's so much better. That's so much better. Like finally you did it by yourself. Like I feel like that totally happened to me as a kid. And so it's common, and it totally is from a place of, mostly love and support of like, I want you to be able to feel good about yourself and do things by yourself. But right, then it creates a whole culture of adults who don't know how to ask for help and push through, to the point of overwhelm and stress. And so, yeah. And I do think like that word autonomy, I can see how people could get it confused with the independence part, just because it can, autonomous, or like it kind of sounds like, right, well, then they're doing things on their own. And I want them to have autonomy means they are just doing their things on their own. But it's just a different thing. That's not what it looks like. Autonomy is making choices and, not being forced to do something that you don't want to do. So there is nuance, and it's so interesting.
It really is.
Yeah. Like, I mean, that can be one of the messages when we first come to unschooling, that can be confusing. Like, it's like, oh, I'm not supposed to help them. I'm not supposed to step in and teach them things. So I don't know what else to do. I'm just going to like step back, hands off, right? And expect them to figure things out on their own, right? And then we start equating that independence, that autonomy as doing it themselves versus just choosing what they want to do, right? And then that really gets in the way, I think, of just developing the relationships with them, right? Of being in connection, of developing that trust. And I just want to jump back to that laundry example, because that's like a beautiful thing. I love that example because we get this like, oh, this is something they need to know when they're out on their own. So, I need to like support them in doing that thing. And then once they learn it, they should keep doing it because someday they're going to be out and they're going to have to do it for themselves all the time. So with mine, it's like they need all this training, like years of laundry to be able to do laundry when they're home. And when you think of it through that lens, it's funny for most people. But I mean, yes, definitely out of a loving space, I want to help them. I want to support them, and we can just really get in our head with that. And I think it just does so much more damage than it helps because like literally you can learn how you can go to YouTube and learn how to do some laundry in 10 minutes and boom, you got something washing with whatever machine you got in front of you. We're calling the service, like whatever it is, like and we have like just built so much critical, like in every episode we talk about critical thinking skills, like working through problems. I remember a call from a laundromat from Lissy, like when she moved to New York City at 18. I was like, oh yeah, this isn't it, like, oh my gosh, 2-minute phone call. And because she's like, oh, I have this question, this isn't the same, like different machines, different place, different country, like a whole different experience. And it was totally okay. That wasn't a failure of some sort of laundry training that I didn't do over the previous 10 years that I like, oh, that's a big X in your parenting.
How cool that she called though, because I would say my mom was one of those moms that she didn't let us do the laundry. I think she thought we would mess it up. And so I learned laundry like, on my own. There wasn't even YouTube. Like we just had to trial and error it and figure it out when we were on our own. And it's like, but I love that Lissy could just call, and even you're not there, you don't know the machine, but you can talk it through with her. Again, that's that like interdependence. It's like, okay, you have a little bit more knowledge in this. I want to understand this because this is a little bit different than what I'm used to. Like there's no failure in that on any side. And it's that's what I want to foster, And I think there's just so many ways to support the autonomy and support the independence that's coming from them. That's where maybe they cross over autonomy and independence if that choice is them wanting to do things on their own. And so I don't know, I just think it's so interesting to think about what is it what are we trying to do, and is this path really getting us there?
Yeah, that was a thought that popped up for me, is like when they want some independence, that's kind of the other side of this conversation, is sometimes the kids are really the ones pushing independence in an area where maybe we're not quite ready for it. And that's where it's autonomy again, like giving them the choice of having more independence in an area where we kind of want to say, oh, no, that's fine. We'll keep doing it for you. I'll keep doing your laundry because I'm just not sure about letting you do that yet, And so, yeah, just the context, the people are different. Each child is going to, if they're given the chance, to have that autonomy, they will show you what they want to be independent in and at what time. And right, like that's them making their own journey of life.
And they also give you the clues as to how much they want to celebrate that thing. Like you could say, if we celebrate it because we're super excited that they did it independently, and we subtly give the message that doing it independently is better than needing or wanting help for it, like that can get in the way again, as you were talking about. But yes, they may want to do something independently and they may think it's cool. Like we don't have to be this stone wall all the time when it comes to doing something independently or not.
Right.
But we can take our clues from them, like how exciting is this for them? We can validate, like, oh yeah, that's amazing, so cool, how fun, whatever words work for them. We can like meet them where they are in that choice, in that moment, and in that level of excitement without the expectation, again, that it'd be the same every time, without subtly relaying the message that, okay, we now expect them to do that same thing every time, like all those pieces. Because we can be looking to outside to tell us, I think, so often, like, okay, so if I'm going to follow, our whole unschooling rules series, rules of unschooling say that, I'm not going to teach them. I'm not going to tell them, okay, so then I'm going to step back. Oh no, but, step in and actually follow. It's not as hard as it thinks. Oh, but so we're looking for that rule that says, okay, but in this situation, we do X. Okay, now here's a little bit different situation. Now we do Y. No, there aren't rules for us there. But if we just engage with the actual person in front of us in that moment, we have so many clues. So many clues how to engage with them, how to support them, how to validate them, how to like meet them where they are in whatever level of excitement or frustration, that we can understand who they are and just be with them. That is just so much more valuable, I feel, than like worrying about that's our school mind. Okay, but when they're doing this and they're feeling this, what should I do? No, sorry, you're gonna have to just figure it out because it's
yourself.
so
But right,
unique.
but that's back to what you said earlier, where independence is not the bad word. What we're calling into question is the agenda,
Yeah.
the attachment to outcome, the expectations, and that's what we're calling into question here. And a friend recently was talking about, supporting autonomy, like that's how she sees her role is at supporting autonomy. And so that's, they're making choices they're wanting to do, and we're supporting. So it's not the hands off over here. You're this autonomous being doing things independently. It's, yeah, we can be partners in that, and I can support you in your individual choice and free will.
Right. And you can ask for help.
Yes. Yes.
Please ask for help whenever you need it. All right. Thank you so much to both of you for this wonderful, wonderful conversation. And thank you to everyone for joining us. We hope you enjoyed this and that maybe you picked up a nugget or two that will be helpful on your unschooling journey. Remember to check out our new course, 4 Pillars of Unschooling in the Living Joyfully Shop at, not surprisingly, livingjoyfullyshop.com. We wish everyone a lovely week. Thanks so much.
Take care.
Bye.